Welcome into a very special edition of the Daily Juice podcast. My name is Matt Perrault. You guys can follow me on Twitter at SportsTalkMatt. Today is our 500th episode of the Daily Juice podcast. We have a new microphone. I might be sounding a little different. I've changed the mics up. We've upgraded a little bit here, and I got to figure out how to hold myself because I'm a little bit on YouTube where you guys can watch the Daily Juice. It's a little bit of a different feel. Normally I have a headset on, and now I got to I'm more mobile now. I feel more loose, not as tied down with the headset. But this podcast always found on YouTube for audio, BettingPros.com, or wherever your audio podcasts, always being brought to you by BetMGM. You guys with a new account, $5. Bet on the Patriots, bet on the Falcons, bet on the college game. If a touchdown gets scored in those games, money line, parlay, money line, side total, whatever you go with. If a touchdown gets scored, you win $100 in free wagers with a new account at BetMGM with that promo code JUICE100. JUICE100, $5 touchdown. You win $100 in free wagers from BetMGM and BetMGM.com. Okay, so here's what's happening today. For 500 episodes now, I have been here for the Daily Juice podcast every single morning doing this, whether it be on vacation or whether it be in a hospital room or whether it be just or whatever, just in my house and during the pandemic and everything else. Sick with COVID. I wasn't sick yet. Luckily, we started the juice on July 8th. I got sick with COVID in mid-June, so I just missed it. So that was good. I don't think I could have done that probably would have been the thing that knocked me out. I don't think I could have done the juice when I was sick back in June of 2020, but thankfully, that has not happened. We've been all good. So here's what's going to happen today. I already have the Patriots -6 going for 1 unit. Okay, so that's already a play. We're already in. If it's 6.5 right now, it was 7. It's been bought back a little bit. I'm just going to ride Patriots -6 and leave it alone for 1 unit. I got one more unit to give you guys coming up here today, and one in college football and one in the NBA that we'll give you guys in a second. We went 2-0 yesterday. Of course we did, right? There's no way the gambling gods were going to let me have a losing night before we go to number 500. So we get the football bet right with Northern Illinois, -1. They win in overtime. That cashes. And then we get the Hawks against the Celtics. And all those prop bets, by the way, they all hit. Clint Capella over his rebounds, hit. Clint Capella over half an assist, he had 3. That hit. John Collins over his points, that hit. John Collins over his rebound prop, that hit. So we did a pretty good job with the Hawks and the Celtics last night. We got that game really, really on point for last night. So that was a good night overall. So very cool. I needed a sweep type night like that. I needed a night where I was just hitting every bet, and that was great. I loved what we hit last night. It was so hopefully that's a good thing, a good sign for what's going to come. Because, well, one thing that I have did or done and did in the past for the Daily Juice, the Don't Bet a Parlay. You guys like those. Everyone likes parlays, right? Well, the 2 most memorable parlays that we had hit, one was the light parlay when I did the light versus the dark parlay. And another one was, I think it was a plus 1250 or something parlay that we hit. It was nuts. So I thought I'd bring back the light and the dark parlay for number 500. I have 2 5-leg parlays, one which is plus 670 in the vein of the Don't Bet a Parlay, and another is in the plus 2400 category of the dark parlay type of, Hail Mary type of situation. I have bet $10 on both these bets, okay? They're not going to be counted for official, but it's a celebratory day. And when we celebrate, we make dumb bets. That's what we do, right? We make crazy and dumb bets. So that's what we're doing here for the 500th episode of the Daily Juice podcast. But before I do anything else, I just want to take a second to kind of think back where we were, where we are, and where we're going. And so I always like to do this with my classes, the class that I teach at UNLV, where I like to take a second and kind of reflect, and I'll do that coming up next week, a little bit about the journey that the students had been on, and frankly for myself with them, as to how we start the semester to where we end the semester, and how much more competent do they feel like when they're on the microphone, and how much more comfortable are they talking? Well, here, for me with the juice, I was talking to somebody today a little bit about where I was about 4.5 years ago when I was signed on to work for, well, I'll just say it. My first ever non-radio sports gambling paying gig was with the Action Network when it was signed on. I was the Action Network's first Las Vegas-based correspondent. My job was to cover Las Vegas from a lifestyle standpoint. I wrote a lot of articles about what to do when you come to Vegas and the hidden spots in Vegas and like how fun it is to be in the book and ranking the sports books and different type of opportunities you can have on Super Bowl trips and bachelor parties and all that stuff. And they came to me and they said, look, we're going to really go towards picks and we need you to start to put out your picks. We want you to know what you're going to. And I said, I'm just not really comfortable. I'm not ready yet. And, I make my own bets and I'm comfortable. And like, I don't really, I want to leave my picks on my radio show. I don't really want to do it for the internet. That was 4.5 years ago. And about 3 or 4 months later, I got a phone call and they're like, hey, we're going in a different direction. And I was let go. And it was a huge eye opener for me because I was like, all right, this industry is going quickly towards making picks. And so I started to work really hard and started to ask a lot of questions and started to dig deep and started to add pick segments on my radio show consistently. I started to do a lot more work. I met Dave Sharapan on my radio show, we started a segment called The Bostonian versus the Book. There's a pretty good chance you're hearing more about that today, which is awesome because it just corresponds with the 500th episode. So you'll hear more about that name probably today on Twitter or other places. But the Bostonian versus the Book was my picks, and Dave was saying bet it or book it, and we would go through my picks, and he would say this is great or this is dumb, and we would have real fun conversations about my picks in place. So that's how I got really comfortable, making picks publicly and in telling people what I was betting every day and how I was doing it. And then, I found my way to a podcast with Patrick Everson when he was working for Covers.com, and Patrick and I did this very unique podcast talking about the sports betting industry and all the people he was talking to. And that's how Dan Harris learned about me. And when they were starting the Daily Juice, he came to me and said, hey, would you be willing? Do you want to get into a situation where you're going to be, not just making picks, but, doing something on a daily basis, making yourself known as to what you're betting? And, I don't try to hide who I am in the industry. Well, one of the things that I'm very proud of is when somebody says, well, Matt Perrault doesn't know anything. And I'm like, well, good. I'm glad you think I don't know anything, because then I have you totally fooled and you don't know anything about me. Because what I do or don't know, you're confused by that. Because I'm not projecting myself as somebody who is supposed to be, I'm not a tout. I've never sold a pick in my life. I would never in a million years ever have you guys pay for anything I do, ever. All I want is you guys to listen. That's it. That's the only thing I ask. Of all the things we do on the Daily Juice, the only requirement I have of you guys, the only thing I ask of you is to listen. What you do with my picks, if you fade every pick I make, great. If I'm making you money that way, I'm doing my job, as long as you're listening. If you're fading every play or following every pick that I make and I make you some money, great, as long as you're listening. It all comes back to listening. Now, the Discord channel being added, that was a huge thing, and it gave us some very real-time abilities to communicate. And I think the podcast went to a different level when we started the Discord channel, which, if you don't know by now, bettingpros.com/chat, spell it out in the browser, or the link underneath me on YouTube to get in, was a huge, awesome addition. And it's poured, I think, gasoline on the fire. And it's given us literally 24 hours a day access to each other to talk about sports betting and what's happening in games and sweat games together and watch games together and, do the Discord communications, the live chats and everything else we're doing on the Discord channel. It just worked out perfectly. It was just wonderful. So I think this is, again, a long story short, a long way of me saying thank you for being along on this ride. Thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention. And thank you for allowing me every day to be a part of your routine, because the number of DMs and messages I have received from people, fathers, some of the more memorable ones I've received, a father sent me a message that his son is autistic and doesn't communicate very well. And his son listens to the Daily Juice because he loves numbers and he loves to, figure out games. And when he listened to the Juice, he can go to his dad and say, Matt took this, and they argue, talk, they break down the games together, and it's given them something to talk about. They can communicate. The Daily Juice is how his son and him now communicate. I mean, that is like insanely beautiful to me. And I can't believe I'm actually a part of that type of relationship. And I don't know these people, but this podcast is part of it. When my sister-in-law's boyfriend who is still sick with cancer and has a brain tumor that was removed and has started radiation and chemotherapy now right here before Thanksgiving. And we will go and see him next Tuesday night or Wednesday morning when we fly back to Boston for Thanksgiving for the first time. I haven't been home in Boston for 2 years. July of 2019 was the last time I was home in Boston. So I'm excited to go back home, but we're going to go and see Daryl and see how he's doing and check in. And, he's probably going to be hurting pretty bad, starting chemotherapy and radiation. And you guys helped us raise, the vast majority. Yeah, sure, there were others. And I think the total now is about $38,000. But I'll make the bet that about $30,000 of that came from you guys, came from the Daily Juice audience. And that's incredible. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable what you guys did. And I couldn't be more thankful for that. So, it's just been a really cool time. And it's the most special thing I've ever been a part of in my 500 days. I've never done anything for 500 straight days. Like 500 straight times I've done this podcast. It's something, it's incredible. So, all right, I rambled on too much. I'm 13 minutes in. I apologize, but I just had to get that off my chest and just wanted to say a big, big thank you. Okay, so let's get to the parlays first. I'm sure you guys care about the parlays first is where we're going, okay? The first one, all right, 5-leg. Plus 670 parlay. It's the light parlay. This is a $10 bet that would bring back $67. Woo, we're getting rich tonight, boys. Patriots money line. Louisville money line. That's a plus 1,500 bet, by the way. Clippers money line. Plus 120 bet. Flames money line. Fade the Sabres always. And Ohio State -2 in their game. That might be the most shaky of all the bets. But they're taking on in-state rival. I like finally for the Buckeyes in the Big Ten to do something here. Ohio State -2. 5-leg, plus 670. I'm putting $10 on that. Do whatever you want, okay? Again, these aren't official plays. These are just for fun, celebratory bets that we're making to kind of have some fun and sweat this. If either one of these things hit, I'll be shocked, okay? That's the point of a parlay, right? This is to have fun and sweat it out, and maybe we have a chance to, come back and do some other things. The dark parlay, we're going with dogs. All dogs in plus money or even money wagers. All right. Falcons plus 6.5. Duke plus 20 against Louisville. The 76ers plus 8 tonight against the Nuggets. UMass, my alma mater, against Weber State in a tournament game in Florida. Plus 1. UMass plus 1. And Oilers at home, even money on the under 6 goals. It's juice to the over. I want some even money. Let's get even. Maybe get a push out of it. But 6 goals. Oilers are at home. They're really good at home. But hopefully you get like a 3-1, 3-2, 4-2 win if we push. But, Oilers win 3-2 and we're good there. Okay. Oilers under 6 goals at home. 5 legs. That is a plus 2,400 parlay. Okay. $10 to win $250. The light parlay hit last time. Maybe the dark parlay hits this time, right? Again, I'm not guaranteeing or promising anything here. These are all for fun. This is just, to kick our heels up and have some fun here, guys, okay? You can do what you want. Bet these, don't bet these. I'm betting $10, okay? We're not counting this. This is not an official play by any means. This is just to have some fun, to give out some parlays, and to celebrate the 500th episode of the Daily Juice. Again, light parlay is Patriots money line, Louisville money line, Clippers money line, Flames money line, Ohio State -2. Okay, 5-leg plus 760. The dark parlay is Falcons plus 6.5, Duke plus 20, Sixers plus 8, UMass plus 1, and the Oilers under 6 goals, even money, a plus 2,400 parlay. Hail Mary, crazy parlay for us to go ahead and hit it. Now for the real plays, the official plays. We know that Patriots -6 for 1 unit is an official play for me, okay? That is on the board. That is official. Let's talk about Louisville and Duke here for a second. And Louisville on the road taking on Duke. The number is 20. The total is 60. It's 60.5 at certain books. I got 60, okay? On the season, Louisville's 3-7 to the over. Not great. Duke 5-5. However, Duke at home is 4-1 to the over. Louisville just is 1-3 to the over on the road, but they, in my opinion, will have a chance to score a ton of points here against a really bad Duke defense. Duke has given up 48 points, 54 points, 45 points, 48 points, 31 points, and 38 points since the start of October. All right? Points. Now, the other hand here, Duke's offense is not horrible. They scored 29 points against Pittsburgh, scored 27 against Georgia Tech. Okay? I mean, they beat Kansas at home. Okay? 4-1 against the spread, 4-1 to the over for Duke at home. They've been playing a lot of road games recently. Shut out at Virginia. Only 7 points against Wake Forest. Only 7 points against Va Tech. But again, at home, 27 against Georgia Tech, 29 against Pittsburgh. Okay? I think they're going to give up 40 easy to Louisville. Easy. So if that's the case, and they're going to give up 40 points to Louisville, well, all we need is 20 points out of Duke, and we get to 60. All we need is 21 points out of Duke, and we cover the over. Half a unit, we're going over 60. Duke and Louisville here. We're going to want points. I mean, heck, Louisville might hang 60 on them themselves. I mean, Pittsburgh scored 54, okay? So maybe Louisville, who scored 41 against Syracuse last week, scored 24 against Clemson, only 13 against NC State, but 28 against Boston College, 33 against Virginia, scored 34 against Wake, 42 against UCF. They can score. Their offense is capable of scoring, in particular against bad teams. We're going over 60. Louisville, I don't mind 60 and a half. I don't mind even 61, to be quite honest. I wouldn't go much higher than that, but 60 and a half, 61, fine. Go ahead. Go there to the over for Duke and Louisville for a half a unit. For the other half a unit, I am not going to go against the Golden State Warriors right now. I mean, the Warriors are 9-4-1 against the spread. They have covered in 4 of the last 5 games. They have covered 7 of their last 10, 7-2-1 in their last 10. On the road, they're 3-2 against the number. Now, Cleveland at home is 4-2-1, not bad. 7-1-2, same, or actually a better record, 7-1-2 for Cleveland. They're 10-4-2 against the number here. But their last 3 games, they haven't covered. They were 2-point favorites against Boston. They won by 2 and pushed. They were 4.5-point dogs to Boston on the road. They lost by 6. They were catching 10 against Brooklyn in their last game, and they lost by 10. So they're right on the number. They're close, all right? This number here is 8.5 for the Golden State Warriors. Warriors were favored by or catching 2.5 points against Brooklyn. They won by 18. Last time I'm fading the Warriors. Charlotte -5. They lost by 4, didn't cover, but Chicago -5.5. They won by 26. Against Minnesota, -7.5. They won by 13. Against Atlanta, -3.5. They won by 14. We know where the Warriors are and what they are doing. They're just hot, all right? Are they due for a stinker? Probably. We tried to fade them and we got burned. Watch them lose this game and I go 0-2 on my last 2 games. But the insane thing about the Warriors right now, Golden State Warriors are 12-2. Guys, they're 12-2. 47.5. They got to win 48 games. They need to win 36 more games. And we go over the 47.5. They can play way under sub 500 basketball the rest of the way and get there. And they don't have Klay Thompson yet. So this Cavs team is not healthy. This Cavs team is, I don't think, all that great. You know, they've been okay, but they've got some issues. They're banged up. And, I mean, without Colin Sexton, Jared Allen's questionable. Set up the last 2 games with an illness. He may or may not play. We don't know. I just think, you know, Curry is questionable here. So that would probably be the only thing that might concern me a little bit. If you're like, all right, if, you know, you're not going to have Iguodala out there. So that's not great. If Curry were to sit down, I would say don't bet this. But I'm going to bank that he does play. He looked pretty good in the last game. And so it's a left hip contusion. So I don't know if it's all that serious to keep him out. I'm going to lay the 8.5. If he's out, I will punt out of this bet. Okay, just FYI. If Steph Curry's not playing, I will punt out of this wager and we'll go find something else to bet on. And I'll just bet the other side and get out of this bet. Just to let you know. But as long as Curry's playing, half a unit, -8.5. Warriors, and I think the number indicates that the books think he's going to play because it wouldn't be this high against Cleveland on the road if it wasn't for the fact they thought Curry was going to play. So we lay the 8.5, half a unit, Warriors -8.5 against Cleveland in the NBA. All right, so the full card for us, Patriots -6, 1 unit, over 60 Duke and Louisville, half a unit, Golden State Warriors -8.5 against Cleveland on the road for a half a unit. My name is Matt Perrault. Follow me on Twitter @SportsTalkMatt. each and every morning. It's the Daily Juice Podcast, our 500th episode in the light and dark parlay. Let's see if we can hit one of these $10 bets to have some celebratory fun for the Daily Juice Podcast. Thank you for listening. Let's hear for 500 more of these, huh? I'm Matt Perrault. Every morning, it's the Daily Juice Podcast right here on BettingPros.com.